Humor is a gateway drug into getting to know somebody. It immediately drops guard. And as soon as somebody drops guard, you can ask them anything in the entire world. What if there was a defense tech version of the show Silicon Valley?
Who would I could write the entire thing. Give me 10 minutes, dude. This is the Go Rodeo podcast. Welcome back. I'm Garrett Smith, one of the co-founders of a company called Reveal. My co-hosts Simon and Dave and I all work at Reveal, and we are in the business of serving the American and partnered force warfighters and warriors, and modernizing that experience through technology. This forum, the Go Rodeo forum, is all about kind of generating mindshare and talking about issues of the day, themes and trends along the way, and then advocating for better and more from the venture-backed defense technology community in service to the principles, ideals, nations, and militaries that we serve. So that's us. And today we have the great honor of welcoming John Acevedo, one of the co-founders and leaders from Veteran Entertainment Television, Vet TV, to the show. As we caught in some of the cold open discussion, John is, like me and like Simon, a Marine by deep background. Sorry, Dave, you're outnumbered this week, which is good news because usually it's the reverse. Although, Simon, you and I holding down the fort as a Marine duo, I think we usually have at least some density of strength. You with your punch above mean-spirited,
our weight for sure.
Yeah, we punch well above our weight. You with mean-spirited barbs, and me with snarky, light-spirited humor. That's a self-description of my mode, of my style. So let's kick things off, John, with a quick set of introductions, maybe for yourself. Take the mic. Tell us who you are, where you came from. I think we have particular interest in the deeper background about how you encountered the Marine Corps as a young Marine officer, and then what that experience taught you and how it kind of segued into a future career in the entertainment space.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here. So it was a dark and stormy night in March of 1989. Honestly, I was in high school. My oldest brother was in the military at the time, and he's like, "Hey, how are you going to pay for college?" And I had no idea. So I basically just followed in his footsteps. He went to Bandy. He did ROTC. He joined the Marine Corps. I went to Bandy. I did ROTC. I joined them. He branched off and did an ADJ, was an ADJ. And never did that job after this first tour. And then I ended up going Marine Corps Infantry, and that's how I got to know Andrew Dixon. We were in IOC together. So that
Andrew
was
Dixon, one of the co-founders, chief operating officer at Reveal. And just for the non-mill audience, ADJ or adjutant is the administration or administrative officer for various echelons of military units.
Would you believe I didn't know what that was as an enlistman?
I was going to say, we're talking about non-military. Maybe you should have said non-Marine Corps. I'd never heard that before.
You've never heard adjutant before? Really?
I know there's the adjutant's call, which was a good thing that happened in the formations that, I was trying not to lock my knees at. But other than that, I was like, what does that guy do?
That's it.
He just yells once every 2 years. He has to get out here and read this piece of paper. That sucks.
He's probably also the reason you didn't get an award, why, your travel orders were screwed up, all that stuff. He's probably that. That's
no
not
shortage
John's
of
brother, because I'm
for
sure
holding me back in my Marine Corps career.
That's right. Holding
He's the
you,
guy.
Simon Coon, down. That's right. Okay, so was that a common thing coming out of Nashville, coming out of Vanderbilt? That seems like it would be kind of the antithesis of what the average Vanderbilt student would be going off to do. Is that true, or is that not true?
We had a small ROTC program. I think it was like 30 or 40 people, so I wouldn't say it was a vast majority. Bandy's also small, right? It's like 6,000 students total.
Wow, that's a huge ROTC program in my mind then. I think my school of 30,000 had like a 20-person ROTC.
A little different.
Granted, I went to a liberal lefty art school, but I actually know nothing about Vanderbilt. I have I have no idea what kind of a school it is. I just know it's in the South.
It's a very good school. I think it's consistently rated in top 10, top 20 of undergraduate programs. So
It's in Music City, which meant I didn't know that bars had DJs until I left Nashville because there's just live music everywhere. It was great.
Yeah.
Live music everywhere, and specifically country music. It's like a country music mecca.
Specifically country.
Are you into country, John? Because we have the cousin of country music royalty on the show with us today
It's
in the form of Dave Caudle. But anyway, are you a country music guy?
It's a learned love,
Learned love.
It's not. I'm not going to put it on particularly, but I probably know the words to all the big ones because a few drinks in at a party and
that is also universal military experience. Those are my favorite things about the military. The weird melting pot of music where like at the end of the deployment, like 3 songs in Spanish. Never spoke a word, but I had a platoon mate from Cicero in Chicago. I'm like, I know these songs by heart now. This is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
My producer, his name's Justin Pelton. He's Marine Corps. He retired out of it. And we're writing a mockumentary about Marine Corps boot camp right now, actually on MCRD. And we're thinking of jokes. And he's like, yeah, I didn't see a black guy until Marine Corps boot camp. I'm like, at 18 years old?
Yeah.
That was the first time. So yeah, it's a huge melting pot for sure.
Hey, let me ask you guys a question. You and Garrett both have done some San Diego time. Have you ever seen a homeless person break on to MCRD?
I heard about it.
This is a thing. Yeah, I found out about it. I'm like, because Parris Island, for everyone's understanding, there's 2 Marine Corps boot camps, West Coast, San Diego, East Coast, Parris Island. Parris Island's in the middle of the swamp full of every deadly animal that exists in Southeast America. It is a death trap. San Diego has humans. I could not envision a stranger, much less like a wandering, unhoused person, breaking onto the worst place in the world. So I was just hoping you guys might have a fun experience of some guy wandering in trying to use your showers.
So I never had that. And like one entire side, maybe 2 sides of MCRD San Diego it butts up against the San Diego International Airport. And so there's just like there's this kind of natural barrier, at least on one side. But we definitely heard about homeless people breaking in and coming to use like the laundry facilities and showers and all kinds of stuff. Totally.
It's got to be like a homeless person's dream. It's just a bunch of unsecured facilities with like laundry and showers and
outside the depot, maybe. It's not the greatest place right across the street.
Yeah.
John, I have a deep appreciation for Nashville. My first duty assignment was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and
nice.
Obviously spent all of our time in Nashville. Met my wife in Nashville, but I agree with you on the great quality about Nashville is it's so dense with good musicians that you can hear good music at the coffee shop when you get your coffee in the morning. There's one in the lobby when you check into your cheap hotel. I'll always love that about that city.
Yeah, no, it's
cool city. Yeah. John, tell us about what happened after that. So you go off, you get minted as an infantry officer. We go through kind of all those rites of passage, the basic school, infantry officer course. You make your way to 5th Marines. What happens from there?
Good old 2-5. Went on 2 deployments. Loved my time as a platoon commander. Respected my time as an XO, I guess. I don't know if you can really say you loved your time. Loved your time as an XO.
Yeah.
Love being like in a big brother type role. That was cool, but still keep in touch with a lot of the Marines, and that was still I think every one that was a platoon commander says that's like the most fun time that they ever had. So really missed that part. But yeah, after 4 years, this was 2000. I joined 2012. Realized I missed the war, and as I'm looking at both wars, as I not going to get to deploy anywhere and actually do the job that I, trained for. And so it's like, okay, well, I don't know. This is starting to feel like theater with paperwork. And I don't know if that's what I necessarily want to do for the rest of my time in the Marine Corps. And so decided to part ways in 2016. And as I was looking at what I'm going to do next, speaking to a lot of my seniors and people who had a few years older than me, and I was seriously considering getting an MBA. But everyone I spoke to, and this is obviously 2 years out, so most of them were still in junior associate positions at a lot of the companies, but they all hated their jobs. They're like, yeah, we're making great money, but just working 120-hour weeks or whatever ridiculous. And so I knew I wanted to learn business by doing business, and so I decided not to pursue an MBA, and I wanted to find a startup where I could learn business by doing business. In between finding what that business is, which eventually became Vet TV, I worked for a nonprofit. We biked across the country, built houses in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity. Really, really cool experience. Vet TV came about because the co-founder, the initial founder, Donnie O'Malley, he had posted on his Facebook saying, hey, I'm launching this thing called Vet TV. I'm starting a Kickstarter campaign. Does anyone know anything about it? And I DM'd him saying, yeah, I know very small things about it. And he's like, cool, you're on the Slack team. And he adds me to Slack, and then we kick things off. He came up with the idea of Vet TV really by accident. So when he was getting out of the Marine Corps, he got out in like 2014. He was medically retired. He did some traveling, and then while he was in Wounded Warrior Battalion, he was blogging about his time in Sangin. It was all like the funny perspectives of when he was in Afghanistan, not necessarily like, let me tell you about war. It's let me tell you about people on the FOB that go to war and what they're actually thinking and feeling. And so it'd be stories like a blonde reporter just came on base today. Everyone is trying to get her attention. The only thing that everyone is thinking is X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And so it'd be that, like the inner thoughts that you might find in a college comedy.
Simon's never had those thoughts about blonde reporters. Just as a side note.
Don't care for reporters, don't care for blondes.
And so it was a dark comedy, right? It was like a Tucker Max, I hope this served beer in hell type.
Man, Tucker Max, what a deep cut.
Yeah,
that one really dominated the culture for folks that aren't familiar. Maybe don't look it up, but
Tucker Max paperbacks floated around my whatever barracks or whatever forward deployed facilities
for our generation. That reference is like flawless. That is, yeah.
So that was his initial writings.
Can I say, John, sorry to bust in here, but I remember in like 2013, 2014, 2015, I don't remember exactly which year, I remember encountering Donnie O'Malley content because he was generating content through this period. Or was that early Vet TV that I'd be remembering?
It was right before Vet TV. So
okay. So the one that I remember...
So his blogs turned into books, and then in order to market the books, he was making videos. And so those are the videos that you probably remember. He had like 4 or 5 videos that went like bonkers, billion view videos.
Totally. So at least one of those was this kind of parody treatment of female Marines in combat arms roles, so in the infantry roles. And again, I'm not vouching for this video. It's not safe for work. I'll give all the disclaimers here, but like, I remember laughing so hard because Donnie's playing both sides of it. He's both like a hyper-masculine dude, but he's also playing the female going through. And so there's that kind of like Mike Myers playing multiple characters sort of riff thing. Anyway, I don't know if I'm an early believer in the Donnie O'Malley story, but I appreciated that content very much.
Yeah, so that one, and this is kind of, to bring it all back and like what a lot of early Vet TV content is based on. That's a really great video. So that was actually a Duffel blog article that he wrote for Duffel blog that got rejected.
I remember this. Yep.
Unfortunately. And probably, whatever. And so he's like, well, I'm going to turn this into a sketch. And he wrote it out of a deep frustration that he was personally feeling. And at the end of the day, like, this was his art. And good art is personal, as Martin Scorsese would always say. And he wrote this as a response to, women potentially coming into combat arms. So this is 2015. That video and like the thought process and how we landed on something that did resonate with a lot of Marines and then veterans at the time is the basis on how we write anything about TV, which is start with the deep frustration, start with the trauma that people face, and then expand on that. And that's why it's dark comedy as opposed to just lighthearted comedy, is that it's always born out of something that people have a strong opinion about.
It's also the reason why it like strikes that cathartic chord that I was referencing earlier, and why it's kind of like a community building kind of resonant touchstone, because so many people, probably all of us in this discussion, have experienced it. Whether there's a positive or a negative valence to it, it almost doesn't matter. It is a common experience, either those thoughts or definitely those experiences and traumas,
Yeah, and the biggest thing that we've seen and why the basis of this has always been like healing through humor is before Vet TV. So after he wrote the book, before Vet TV, he had another nonprofit called Irreverent Warriors, and it's now underneath the Grunt Style Foundation. But it was a nonprofit that we ran for a long time, and its flagship event was called a Silky Psych. Silky Psychs are now in 100 different cities. People throw on silkies, a ruck, and hike in the middle of the city with giant flags. And Some of them get huge, like 600-700 people walking through Boston or New York City. Some of them are small, where it's only like 30 or 40 people walking through the city. But what we found is that, one, you get a bunch of veterans together, they're going to have veteran humor. But two, humor is a gateway drug into getting to know somebody. It immediately drops guard. And as soon as somebody drops guard, you can ask them anything in the entire world. And that was interesting to us from like a, what is the point of dark comedy? And like, if we ever got any negative feedback, we could point them to this, which is comedy drops someone's guard. And then you can actually have a legitimate and a serious conversation with them on the back end. We actually went as far, just to like side note, there's a guy, Dr. Bessel Vanderbilt. He wrote this book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's like a big book in mental health, and talked about like, why is dark comedy, like what is it that we're seeing, and is that actually real? And he validated it. That's like, yeah, dark comedy, especially amongst these people, will drop people's guard, and that allows people to actually tap into what's actually going on. So that's why the basis for everything that we do is find a trauma, find something that like people have a strong opinion about, make ruthless comedy about it, and then that opens doors for help later on down the road.
Something that a lot of military veterans feel after leaving active duty, and probably after leaving the reserve or guard community, if they choose that as a kind of stepping stone out, they experience all this kind of thing that we all refer to as like social isolation or loss of community, loss of tribe, loss of mission and purpose and all that stuff. And so I very much believe in this idea that community needs gathering, community building. I think you refer to it as healing through humor, but using that as like a community building lodestone. So I very much appreciate what you're building over there, not just because it's like fun and entertaining and I get it, but because it actually helps bring people together after a couple of decades of high trauma for our communities.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. Plus, it's cool to say that I go to work every day and get to write comedy. So that's been pretty fun to do for the last decade.
Well, I've been on set with you a couple of times because in addition to everything that you're doing, there is this overlap between our two companies. So Vet TV is the partner that Reveal produces this series called The Battle Lab. And so I've been, in studio and on set with you doing some of the post-production, voiceover and other stuff. And then definitely out in the field as we like execute our recurring battle labs. So it's not easy work, but I can tell that there's like a joy and a passion there for you and for the rest of the crew and the team, similar to the experience of being part of a military unit, being out on mission and doing the job and doing the work. So it's a fun thing. It's a real fun thing. Dave, Simon, you guys need to get out there. Have you guys been to one of these battle labs? I think you have not.
You guys have air conditioning at Battle Lab?
I have not been to one of the shoots. I have been to plenty of the preparatory events where we iron out the con ops and make sure all the tech is going to work together and that sort of thing.
Well, we've now done 3 or 4 seasons of Battle Lab, and we're kind of like trickling it out via the Vet TV streaming platform. Again, I'm also a subscriber. Ditto Dave. So that's Simon. You should subscribe.
I subscribe to nothing.
You subscribe to
not one single thing. I refuse.
The American nightmare.
It makes me so mad every time I have to read my bi-monthly New York Times article that I can't get into because I refuse to give them my money. But yeah, I'm going to strongly consider. I'm very interested though, like in where in sort of the story did you guys start expanding out of non-comedy content and what the current state / future slate, because it's clear to me that Vet TV is growing. You have a pretty powerful niche, which is not just veterans, dependents, their families, our ecosystem of folks, but I think there is a really strong contingent of at least Americans for sure that have an interest in this community. Post 9/11, the way we think about veterans, the way we think about military culture. I everywhere I go, I see a 9-line apparel shirt or a grunt style shirt, and I'm looking at 2/3 of those people, unfortunately, going, bullshit. Wait, yeah, it's not illegal just to buy a shirt. That's the the enlisted Marine, my brain's like, you're not supposed to wear that. And then I'm like, yeah, yes, you are. Because we want those companies to make money and thrive and grow. So what led you to this newer type of content that we're in partnership with you on? And then
a few years ago, it was our first venture outside of comedy. It's called Let's Talk About the War. And it was right outside of right after the fall of Kabul or Haikia. I don't know how to reference that area.
Quick pause, because I did not know that. Just to plug this article, because it's like chewing my brain up right now. There was just an article in the New York Times called, Why I Sought Out the Taliban Commander That I Fought, by Thomas Gibbons Neff, where he just flew to Afghanistan and interviewed someone he fought on the other side of the Battle of Marja. If folks haven't read it, I highly recommend it, particularly if you've chewed some of the same dirt. But boy, what a topic. I mean, that's going to consume us for the next 10 years, thinking about the war and what like the long-term ramifications are. It's a fascinating thing. I think the previous generations of veterans really did not talk about it, but certainly didn't talk about it in the public sphere the way that we are. That's righteous work.
The docuseries that we filmed was 2 months after. It was directed by Nick Betts, who's an Army veteran. And it was a conversation with 6 veterans who had suffered some loss, whether it was, mental or physical. And it was just their frustration about what that was. And a lot of the footage was pulled from someone who also recently passed away. His name was Gio. He was a Marine Corps veteran as well. So we have B-roll from Afghanistan with conversations from 6 people. And that was received really well, and it's still received. People find it all the time and really appreciate that we're having these deep and intentional conversations. And so that kind of led us on okay, I think there's a world where we can live outside of comedy, but still tap into the same, like, let's talk about serious things with complete candor. We got the opportunity 2 years ago. Chris Naganuma, who's also working at Reveal as a mission specialist, I think is his role. He works with us on the Battle Lab.
Swiss Army knife. Yeah, man, does a lot of things.
So he and then Ethan Nagel, who's one of my directors, we all teamed up and we went to Ukraine 2 years ago. And we got the opportunity to fly into Poland, Uber to the border, get picked up by Chosen, drive into Kyiv, and then had some time with the 25th Brigade, and specifically the Only Wars, as they like to call themselves, squad, right there, like, I don't know. We could see Russia. We could see artillery volleys going back and forth as we were doing interviews. So that was really cool because we got the opportunity to interview Chosen Company. We got the opportunity to interview guys that were part of the Ukrainian military. And it was the same thing. It was complete candor. And there was an instant like, oh, or you're not a reporter. You're just dudes from Vet TV. Before we got there, one of the guys actually spray painted Vet TV on a Russian tank and then blew it up. It was dope. And so there's like again, it's very disarming when Vet TV comes in and people allow us to have tough conversations with them. So that was really cool. And that kind of just led into it. So from there, I introduced Chris to Reveal, and then the idea for Battle Lab came up, and we're just continuing to jump on opportunities. We're not going all in on like everything switching to unscripted. Scripted comedy is still our bread and butter, but we're always looking for opportunities for people who are willing to have conversations with complete candor, and they have some cool footage to go with it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as fun of a documentary.
Well, that's the Ukraine stuff, though, is such like an incredible meeting of the moment between what you guys have already been doing and where the culture has gone. Because I mean, I remember earlier Iraq War, rank and file reporters getting kicked out of country for drawing movements on the ground because they had zero empathy for the people they were actually interacting with and what the reality of their day-to-day life was. And then on top of that, this short form and digital content has become the dominant medium far and away. And then again, there's a whole universe of people that are interested in what's happening here that aren't necessarily within our tribe. And you guys are very uniquely positioned to hit all of those things. And like similarly, how I was introduced to Chris Naganuma and Project Leaflet and Preston Stewart and all these different entities and folks that are doing that kind of work. again, it's righteous. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. And then with Battle Lab, 101st came out for our last shoot, which was really fun up in Montana.
It was awesome.
And there was an immediate, familiarity as soon as they're like, "Oh, Vet TV, cool." Felt like brothers, which is already automatic, amongst veterans, but because we're coming at this from a comedic standpoint, it was instant familiarity, instant friendship there. So that's always fun to still have that.
So a quick plug for Battle Lab, and then Simon, feel free to take the mic. But Battle Lab, we convene on roughly a quarterly basis to run just under a week's worth of technology experimentations in a hyper-realistic force-on-force tactical environment with both technology company representation with new and emerging technologies woven in with tried and true infantry tactics and techniques, and evolving essentially the TTP framework for conventional and special operations forces in the 21st century. And what we do is build it around scenarios. Example, one of our more recent seasons, it was all about combating or confronting transnational criminal organizations coming from south of the U.S.-Mexico border. We filmed it in Texas. It was very much kind of oriented around that problem set, which is relevant time now. Others have been more conventional or even special operations applications. So the plug here is go watch it. Go consume some of that content. There are shorts on YouTube. There are some full episodes on YouTube, but most of the new and high-grade content is on the Vet TV streaming platform. And then the second element of the plug is if you want to get involved, and we have, active duty U.S. military units. In future, we're going to have some international military unit representation. So these are true blue, practitioners of the art of combat with new technology. We bring in lots of different technology partners to fuse and integrate a variety of different ecosystem elements into the mix. And then it's all kind of battle managed or battle tracked and orchestrated in combination between a partner entity of ours called JedDoc, and Phil and Jared from JedDoc have been on the podcast before, and Vet TV. And John has no small hand in kind of ensuring that this thing goes off without a hitch and at high grade and high watchability, high consumability. So thanks, John, for that. But also, if any listeners or consumers of the Goat Rodeo podcast are interested in getting involved, by all means, reach out. We're eager to bring in more partners, more customers, more end users, more prospective end users, and everybody in between. So it's a forum where I think we can facilitate lots of different heterogeneous engagement.
So like you said, I've never actually been to Battle Lab because I'm a house cat by nature, but I'm very interested in the cultural implications of Battle Lab.
Yeah, an angry house cat.
Angry house cat. If you met a nice house cat, it's not knocking stuff off the counter. It's a perfect analogy. But I'm interested as I've watched Battle Lab stuff, and really as I've watched comments on Battle Lab content, which is exactly where I'm going with this thing. I think it demystifies two things at the same time that I think are really interesting, digital content and cultural conversations, which is demystifying how people who fight in war actually train. There is the civilian understanding of what military training looks like is non-existent, which is why they're always either wowed or embarrassed by videos because they don't understand what good training looks like, what bad training looks like, what good. So it's always funny looking at Battle Lab and seeing comments on how the CQB is, and I'm thinking that guy's one of the best CQB operators I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's a comment I would never do that. Of course you wouldn't. You've never seen anyone do that. But it's also demystifying this Ukrainian version, right? This new face of war that hasn't really hit Western militaries at scale yet. So there's these two fascinating conversations. Now, my question that I want to ask here, I have been told not to respond to negative comments, which I think is a bad idea. You should let me loose. But as you guys see stuff like that, how does Vet TV being this digital form, but presenting a lot of content that is born out of real life and traumatic real life experiences, how do you guys navigate that space?
Yeah, and I think this rings true for Battle Lab, honestly, because I do respond to a lot of the negative comments.
Yeah, let me in. Tag me in. I don't even need to. I got thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll respond to every negative comment. I got time in the evening. Cut me loose.
most of what we do is agree with them and say, you know what, like, you're right that this one thing that you're saying could be true in this one instance, but what you're missing is X, Y, and Z. So we always agree with them to like pander to them, because if you take every single possibility, they're probably right in one of those possibilities, but they're also, ignorant to some extent on what the full scope is. So like one comment that we used to get a lot for Battle Lab was, oh, airsoft bros, like, like what kind of training is this? You should be out doing, live fire training. And so it's like, yeah, live fire training would look much cooler. And it does have its place if you're going for precision. But if you actually want to like train tactics against a thinking enemy, then we use paint rounds. But they're still real rifles with real optics and real technology at play. And then they usually are like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. And so that's our approach to anything that we do on VetTV.
A quick interjection here. Yes, a lot of the Battle Lab content is force on force, and so you can't do live fire while achieving that force on force dynamic, John, which is what you're talking about. But also, there's like a not insignificant, albeit a minority piece of the Battle Lab, which is actually live fire. So some of our small counter drone work has been actual live fire with like AI infused killer robots coming at the Blue Force, right? And so like, right. So like, and they're engaging it with live fire, like live ammunition, to take down these drones.
Yeah. Complaining about no live fire
others
with drones is nuts. Why didn't you crash a murder robot into that man? Like,
yeah.
That to answer this, send one to your house. How about that?
Yeah. There's a lot of fun comments. Oh, that would never work. There's going to be 100 drones swarming you. It's like, cool. We got to train how to defeat one drone first before we learn how to train.
Team
how
of
to
people
defeat
that have
100
actually
drones.
seen drones in real life, actually hurt people in real life, or working through stuff, and people are like, that would never happen. Like, based on what?
I would
go. You saw it happen.
I would go a step further, John, with that last comment, which is we got to start with one first. Well, if we actually do think that like the 100 drone swarm is a thing that would happen, and we experience failing in taking down 1 or 5 or 10 at a time, it might actually deter or dissuade us from engaging in the kind of conflict where that could be the result. So, I mean, it might like inspire us to find alternatives to engaging in open conflict, right? So like I'm a big believer in the training and context and experimentation that we do in the Battle Lab. And I think that it influences and informs way more than just like technology development. It actually influences TTPs for our users. It influences decision-making that trickles up into like actual strategic decision-making, or at least one could hope.
It's one of those funny things where I think people watch what's happening in Ukraine and look at American militaries, at least people that have some level of interest, and go, oh, we're fighting wars the wrong way. As if you can just come back and say, hey guys, everybody do it different. And tomorrow everyone will have the muscle memory to do everything different. You have to go practice your ass off to change the way you fight. It doesn't just like, I watched a video, I know exactly what to do in a drone situation now, don't worry. Saw a guy with a shotgun in a truck, he knocked it out. I'm going to do that. Next.
Yeah, that's what I think when I watch professional golfers. I could swing that club. Are you kidding me?
Got it. I'm supposed to hit the little ball. I was swinging at the grass. Shit.
Yeah.
So
I have one question for you guys that's kind of off topic. And it was Wyatt from Sit Reps, which is a meme page that does a bunch of defense recruiting. He kind of posed this.
Yeah.
What if there was a defense tech version of the show Silicon Valley?
Who would I could write the entire thing? Give me 10 minutes, dude.
I think VetTV should produce that, and we should write it. I think it'd be hilarious.
Absolutely.
I don't even know that would need to be scripted. That could probably be unscripted. You probably just
those memes are starting to filter out, though. We're already seeing those memes of like the stereotypical defense tech board. It's like a retired general and a 22-year-old kid. And I have so many thoughts. So many thoughts.
Wait a sec. Are you describing our boardroom? Because
I'm describing every board in our industry, right? And they all look the same, but they don't all function the same, which is exactly the problem. And it's why like every tech company watched Silicon Valley and went, shit, that's us. Because it's true.
But also like, again, not to mercilessly pound on kind of the themes from the VetTV background and experience, but Silicon Valley, the show, is like a community organizing, common experience resonator, right? Like, and you can actually learn things from that. It's kind of like you see the negative example of the thing that you don't want to do in the future, and you kind of like learn the negative lesson and incorporate it in a positive way. Totally could be done in our industry. I think it would be hilarious, John. We should think about doing that. We should think about doing that.
I'm happy to consult. Very cheap.
You could take lead pen, Simon. Go for it. I think have at it in your house cat after hours. Okay, well, John, it's been an awesome conversation. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you back, especially as we keep producing awesome Battle Lab content and perhaps other together. And we're excited to have you back. American Nightmare, Simon, defend your shirt. This is Simon defends his shirt as the wind down to the episode. So defend that shirt.
American Nightmare, one of the great Boston hardcore bands of all time. Early 2000s, still quasi-active. They'll play a show every once in a while. American Nightmare is the name of a Misfits song, which is probably where the name of the band comes from. Although they briefly, while trying to be a big boy band, had to change their name due to legal action. And they changed it to Give Up the Ghost, which is a classic Vietnam slang for dying, giving up the ghost. They went back to American Nightmare once they realized that nothing actually matters and people only threaten to sue you over your punk rock band's band name. Great shirt, though. July 4th, they put these out. The back is Kennedy and his wife in a classic American Nightmare lyric, "Our love is all we'll ever have." Look it up. If you want to listen to some weird music, it'll be fine. Like, you'll be fine. Listen to some weird stuff. Go check out American.
I don't think that's all the love John F. Kennedy ever had. But I don't know the lyric. I don't know what's on the back of your shirt.
Besmirch our beloved founder of Special Operations.
John F. Kennedy, the founder of Special
all
Operations.
Of them. Yeah, he's the institutionalization of it. It's him.
Yeah, sure. Even though the first Special Service Force was incorporated in 1942 in Montana. Okay, father of Special Operations, you give him that appellation. I don't know.
It's the Kennedy School. It's not random guy from Montana School.
Just because somebody put their name on it doesn't mean they founded it. Just look at the Kennedy Center. Just look at the Kennedy Center. Trump tried to do it.
Perfect example.
Nobody bought it.
You can't put your own name on it. Someone else has to put your name on it. That's how you know you did a thing.
But that doesn't mean you're the father of it. It's just kind of an honorary. Anyway, Simon, we'll go to the mattresses later, you and me, and we'll hug it out, I'm sure.
I'm not even in the army. I just like to fight.
It's been a rousing conversation. Simon, thank you for bringing the heat. John, thanks for bringing the reason and perspective, and Dave for being you. Thank you.